Hey, welcome back to the City Rev Life podcast. My name's Robey. I'm here with Dr. Tariq King, my good friend, been a part of City Rev for a long time. An AI, can I say an AI expert? Is that, can I say that? I mean, it's your field, it's your study,
my
it's your
field.
doctorate.
I just never use the word expert to describe myself.
Okay.
That sets a high expectation.
Yes.
And so I try to keep it low.
Yes.
But people call me this all the time.
That's what you are
that's
called.
what I can say.
Okay.
I can say like the person known as an AI expert.
He has been called an AI expert, which is true. He speaks on this subject all over the world and serving his church by helping us think through AI. But also, there's another part of his expertise that we've got to talk about. He is the City Rev expert, to my knowledge, on macaroni pie. So we can't really go on any further with introducing Tariq without a little discussion on macaroni pie. Explain to those of us who are not from Barbados about macaroni pie.
Yeah, so macaroni pie is number one. Let's start with what it's not. It's not mac and cheese, okay? It's not mac and cheese. It does contain macaroni and it does contain cheese, but it is not mac and cheese. It's very important.
Is it a pie?
It is not a pie,
Okay.
except for the fact that it is baked like a pie.
It is baked. Is there macaroni in it?
Yes, there's macaroni. So what we do is that we actually take macaroni, you boil it, you season the macaroni with different spices, etc. And you there's cheese inside of it, right? And eggs and different things. But then there's also a layer of cheese on top. So think of like how you would see a shepherd's pie, for example, coming out of the oven. Think of it like that. Like we actually bake the macaroni after seasoning it and putting in all the stuff. I did it with my daughters a couple of weeks ago, just because the truth is Mackenzie is a very picky eater. She doesn't even like pasta really much, and definitely not mac and cheese for a long time. And when we took her to Barbados, and she tried macaroni pie, like that was it. That was it. She ate the whole thing.
Yes.
So they always remember that as a signature dish, and I actually am planning to do one for you.
Yes.
Because
I didn't want to bring it up, but
I know.
You made it recently, and I didn't get any.
It was actually a trial run because I didn't want to. I didn't want to make it for you as the first test.
Obviously, you had this growing up. From what you've told me, your mom makes the best macaroni pie.
She does.
Was that the first time you had made it?
No.
You had made it before.
My mom. This is the first thing my mom ever taught me and helped me survive college.
This time, this is my question. Did you use AI at any point in the baking process to find ingredients?
No.
So you didn't. You was just all.
No. I just remembered like
analog.
Yeah. Because number one, my I don't have a wide range of things that I cook, right? I when I was going to college, I asked my mom to like help me survive, right? Like just like make sure I knew the basics that I needed to survive, and macaroni pie was indeed one of those basics. So I learned how to make that really well, including baked chicken. Like Barbadians like bake a chicken almost like every Sunday as part of Sunday lunch, and you got your greens. So yeah, no AI involved, just pure memory.
There are limits to what AI should help you do in daily life. Making macaroni pie is one of those, and definitely survival. Your first. This is another story for another day. We do need to get to the subject at hand. But for the record, your first post as a professor after your PhD was it North Dakota?
Yes, North Dakota. Fargo, North Dakota. I always
Barbados
put Fargo there.
to Miami to North Dakota. What a journey. Yeah. And macaroni pie got you through. And of course, the Lord. Yeah. Not in that order. The Lord and macaroni pie. Yeah. And your mom, also not in the right order. Okay, anyway. But here's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about AI in particular. It's becoming part of everyday life. We talked about that in the last episode. If you missed that, go check that one out. A lot of great positives, but cautions and things for us to think about, understand where AI is going. But this particular episode is with our kids. So as parents, if you're watching this, be thinking about this. If you're future parents, like if you don't have kids now, but you want to have kids one day, AI it's a part of our lives. This is going to be what our kids grow up with, and just thinking back, just as far as like when the internet came in, if you're a millennial, like internet was pretty much always part of your life. If you're Gen X, you remember maybe part of your childhood before the internet and then part of it afterwards. And then the parents of Gen X and millennial, they got kind of caught with, oh my goodness, my kids know more about the
Yeah.
internet than I do. And there was a discipleship gap there. And there was a lot of things that, then it was not that what could have been a positive in the technological world often was not, because we didn't stay up with it. So as parents, we have to stay up with AI. We got to think about it. It is going to be part of our kids' lives. It's not if, it already is.
It already is, yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about that. Let's start with how is it part of our kids' lives? And then how are we going to address it with our kids? So let's just start first. How are our kids, not just like college students, high school students, just our children even, how are our kids using it?
Yeah, so there's a number of things. Of course, you can start by thinking like we put these devices in our homes, right? Whether it be Alexa or Google Home, etc. And kids are accustomed to just interacting with it, asking it to do things, asking it to whether it be home automation, right? Like open the shades. Like we have a lot of automation in our home, so you can tell Alexa to turn on the lights, to open the shades, to obviously play music and other things. This was kind of like their first like integration in the home. Um, but I think as we think about what's happening nowadays and where things are going, kids are using AI like the new Google. Like it's like how you
Mm.
talked about the internet, and of course, when that came out, that was a big thing. Now, you can see kids using it in a similar way, where there's a general question, but now maybe the questions are a little bit different. Like, hey, help me with my math homework, or help explain this math problem to me, right? Or help me come up with ideas for this essay that I need to write. This is again sounds like a simple query search for Google, but it's much more than that when
Mm.
you put AI in the mix, because you can ask more complex things, and things that cause AI to generate new ideas or generate things for our kids.
Mm.
So that's, I think, one of the biggest things. Yeah, it's all around us. They also have it on their phones. If your kid has a phone, is also creeping there. Of course, like as a responsible parent, I put a lot of locks on my kids' electronics, their tablets, their phones, etc. I know we've had
Yeah.
conversations on that, and I've helped you a bit, make sure that
Yes.
your family stuff is safe. But yeah, our kids are growing up with it in the home, in their palms, in the schools. Like it's everywhere.
Do you remember? You remember in the late '90s when it was like, wow, there's a thing, that you can, called a search engine. And it's like, which search engine do you, well, I like Alta Vista and I
Yeah.
like Ask Jeeves. Do you remember
It's
these
like
things?
yeah,
Yahoo,
Yahoo,
and
yeah.
then all of a sudden Google came, and I think
Yeah.
this is similar to like what our kids are gonna grow up in. It's like, oh, I use ChatGPT and I use, I use Claude or whatever it may be,
Gemini, yeah.
Gemini, and I think this will be so intuitive to them, and they're gonna be using it every bit. It's not they're going to be using it more than we are only. They will, but it's going to be more intuitive. Like it's going to be shaping their education. Like I remember, you remember going to like Britannica, actual real
Yes.
live
Yeah,
encyclopedias
yeah.
in the library, and you'd
Mm.
pull one out and you look up.
Yeah. We had some in our home, like in our bookshelf. We had our own
Yeah,
like set. They were pretty
yeah.
heavy.
Yeah, and then like a younger millennial would never even have done that. They would have done
Uh,
most of the research on the internet, and our kids are going to be not even using search engines as much as AI, and it's going to be synthesizing a lot of their data and using that. It's just going to be so intuitive
mhm.
in so many parts of life. So it's really everything we talked about in the last episode about everyday use. This is going to be kind of the world they grow up in, which puts a huge responsibility on us with our
Yes.
kids. And so let's break this into three categories. And I want to just hear your thoughts on this, Tariq.
Mhm.
We've got to educate our kids. We've got to on AI. We've got to monitor AI usage, and then we've got to disciple AI usage. So let's talk about educating, because this is going to be what they grow up in.
Yeah.
What do we need to think about as a parent on how to educate our kids on AI?
Yeah. So I think that there's multiple levels to this. On a first level, like I think just making sure kids understand what AI is. I remember like there was one time where we were going on vacation, uh, and we I took the little Alexa with me on vacation, right? And you know, not thinking anything of it. We went on vacation. We used it, helped with alarms, very basic things. It was not anything much. What's the weather like in this region? That was good. Then we came back and put the Alexa back, and Mackenzie looks at me one day and says, "Hey, like, we're saying we're gonna go for a walk as a family, just go for a walk." She's like, "Can Alexa come with us on the walk?" And I was like, "No, Alexa. Well, I actually don't know if we could ever try to do that. Maybe you could, but it would be rather inconvenient. But she's plugged into the wall. Like, it's really a AI thing. It's not a human. But she kind of saw it as part of our family that we can take her on vacation. Why can't we take her on a walk? It makes
Right.
sense. So first thing, just explaining, make sure that they know and they're clear on what this is. But then beyond that, I think the key is getting to a point where when you see opportunities to teach them about the responsible use of AI, that's huge. And more recently, I had a great example of this that I was able to do with Soraya, my 12-year-old. And Soraya loves music, and she had a science project. I can't say she's as big a fan of science as she is of music. And so, as we were talking about the science project, I suggested, like, hey, why don't you do it on music, because you like music, and I work in AI, so let's do something together, right? And it was good. Like, we went through a process. I kind of showed her some AI tools that she can use. She used computer vision to recognize different types of guitars. She used audio processing and classification to play certain chords and have the AI recognize those chords. And then for the last bit, she used generative AI to take some of her. She has a music journal where she keeps all of her ideas, lyric ideas, chord progressions, etc. And she used that content from her journal to feed AI and get AI to generate songs using her ideas, right? And as we were going through all this and talking about it, was opportunities for me to teach her, like, hey, when we're using AI, if we're feeding it images of things, like, we try not to feed it, information that is private to us that we don't want shared in the public. Even when you're using this to generate like songs, you are the one providing the ideas. You're the one, it's your chord progressions, right? So there's no like just blindly like have AI produce the whole song.
Mm.
You can do that, but if you do that and you present it as yours, then that's no different from plagiarizing someone else's work, right? If you're going to do that, you have to be very clear. This is a completely AI generated song, as opposed to maybe what was now an AI assisted effort where these were my ideas, these were my chord progressions, and this is how AI helped me creatively put them together. And so I think we have to find those opportunities where tangibly knowing that our kids are going to use them. They're going to use them for school. They're going to grow up with it. They're going to use it for different things. But how can you responsibly educate them in practical ways like that?
That's amazing. And what an incredible project. And I'm pretty sure Soraya is smarter than I am, that she was able to do that.
I
So
could get you to do it
you
too.
I could become as smart as
You,
Soraya under your.
no. I didn't say you could become as smart as Soraya. I was just saying that I too could teach you how to use the
Okay.
tools I taught her.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm pretty
Well,
sure.
yeah, Soraya's
Yeah,
intelligence is out of reach for
yeah.
me. So anyway, but I think that's amazing. And I like the idea on educating is not teaching them that AI is scary. It's not taboo. Like, in fact, creating opportunities, projects to do with them, like incorporating them in. I remember one time, it was Rebecca was out one Saturday morning, and there was just it was like a random Saturday where no one had a sporting event. It was me and the three kids, and no one wanted to do the same thing. Everyone wanted to do something different, but I was committed that we were going to do a project together.
Okay.
So we all sat around the computer, and I said, okay, some of us around here are interested in unicorns. Some of us are interested in Star Wars. Some of us are interested in Harry Potter. We need you to create a 1-hour activity in the home where that incorporates all of these things. And so we all worked on it together. It created this whole game idea. We tweaked it along the way, and then we had a blast for about an hour. And so it was in bringing them in to an appropriate use. But I also like that exposure is so important. I think, but you use that to also alert them to the things that it's not good for. And I think about that verse in Deuteronomy where it says, teaching them along the way, Deuteronomy 6, the Shema, where it says, you shall take the commands of the Lord, bind them to your head, to your hands, bind them to the gates, teach them in your getting up and you're lying down and you're getting up and going along the way. And so there are opportunities to incorporate them into AI and be doing these projects together and use those as an opportunity to educate what it is, what are the cautions about AI, and just kind of bringing them into that educational space. I think that's great.
Yeah, for sure. I think so the other thing that I think comes to my mind when we talk about the kids and AI, actually came up also I was in church listening to a sermon, and after the service, Soraya was like, "Hey, Daddy, I noticed that you were on your phone during the service, right?" And meaning that you weren't in your Bible app. She actually specifically said, "I saw you were talking to Chat GPT during the service."
It gets a little boring sometimes. I can understand,
But so because when she was like, I was on my phone, I'm like, what are you talking about? I was on my phone. I was like, she was like, oh. Then when she said Chat GPT, I understood what was going on there. And it comes down to also thinking about the spiritual side of things. So I had to explain to her yeah, sometimes when I'm in the service, I do use Chat GPT, and I do a couple things there. One of the things that I'm doing is cross-referencing what is being said, right? So maybe there's historical context. Of course, the pastors are going to provide some of that sometimes, but maybe there's something else that I want to see. So sometimes I use it to get that context, even as I'm listening. I said other times, I want to make sure on both sides, right, that what it could be informational, that what the pastor is saying, if they're saying hey, this is from the Bible, hopefully we're preaching from the Bible, is not a problem. But sometimes something comes from memory, and you want to say hey, where is this in the Bible? AI can certainly help you do that and cross-reference that so that you're sure that this is coming from the Word of God. And then the other thing is a bi-directional cross-reference that I tell her that I do. As number one, I want to know that obviously what AI is telling me about something actually aligns with my theology, right? So if we're there and we're having a conversation, we're going through, and the pastor's teaching something, and I ask AI something, I can, yes, in addition to checking whether or not what the pastor is saying is in the Bible, I can also check if AI is going to give me a response that it's also in alignment with the Bible. And so to me, that was a very different conversation about AI, where I thought yeah, you know what? When people are going to come to this, including our kids, and start using it in different ways, and I have to be an example of saying hey, this is, be very transparent. This is how I use it. This is what I don't want to do when I use it in this manner. I don't want to go to it and it's my pastor. Now I have a pastor I can go to talk to about these things. But if I want to do things like cross-reference or get context on something and make sure, and then I have the Bible app right there as well, it all kind of fits together in a responsible way.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's awesome, and I think those kinds of it's really like most of the other things. It's like creating moments of conversation and creating moments, but seizing moments as well. I think both are important on the education side. Let's talk about the monitoring side. So there's an illustration that we've used before when we're talking about the internet. So if if I had, my son's in fifth grade, I would never drive over to the library, the public library, and drop him off for a couple hours to walk through the library
Yeah.
by himself. I would never do that for a couple reasons. One, the content in the library, he doesn't need to be looking. I don't want a child that's in fifth grade. And I'm not picking on my son for any particular reason. I'm just saying, like, I would never let a child walk through a library and just pick random books
Yeah.
and look at it. Not to mention, I don't know who's in that library. I don't know who's in a predatory way on the library. The same as with the internet. I don't know who's on the internet. Okay, so same way we have to monitor. We have to walk with our kids through the internet. This in the same principle as with AI. We talk about biases behind AI. We talk about how it's going to generate information. It's just pulling from the world, and so there has to be a part of it that we're monitoring. Speak a little bit to that about monitoring AI usage with your kids.
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing to just obviously be aware of out of the gate is you should know all the entry points to AI for your kids, whether it be in your home. I was just mentioning earlier, I had bought a new laptop for the girls for their homeschooling, and the thing that didn't hit me initially because I do lock down all of our electronics was that hey, Copilot is now baked into Windows, and a lot of it in the beginning just pops up on a new computer. Hey, do you want to enable Copilot and blah blah? So like the kids have access even there. Um, so knowing that surface of where they can get access to it if they're using it at school, at home, on their phones, wherever, like you start there. But then beyond that, you have to get into, what are they using AI for? Because again, I think you mentioned it earlier. You don't want to teach them to be afraid of AI. That is not going to go anywhere. That's not going to last. But at the same time, what are they asking AI? Or are they? There's a difference between like using AI as a tutor versus a companion, as we mentioned, or a friend. And so getting into parents knowing like what are their kids using AI for, what are they asking these machines, and then having tools that are able to help you monitor those discussions, right? Big thing for me on the phone front was making sure that, and sometimes these are a little bit annoying because they're false positives, but on the phones with text messaging from our kids, it happens all the time. Like my daughter texting your daughter, and someone says a word that's not really a bad word or whatever, but those messages get flagged as us as parents. We can go in and we can see what was said and make sure it's still very innocent. Um, what needs to happen that's probably not there yet, which is where you need to have a different level of monitoring. Like I would, like if my kids are going to use AI for something, I am there. I am there,
Yeah.
watching the chat. Not every minute of it, but I'm there watching and guiding the chat, letting them go. But there's nothing that's happening there that I can't see. In a similar way, I think if these devices are going to be on kids' phones, there needs to be something that's flagging us if certain, you know, conversations come up, certain words, certain phrases get flagged, and the fact is that I can't think of any tools that are there yet with this, like how we have on the text messaging, but we need something like that. So understand that there's certain aspects of the monitoring that are not there technology wise that we probably need to make sure that we invest in and educate ourselves on and get use. Until then, old school, knowing what your kid is doing, asking them like, did you, what do you use AI at school for? Do you all use AI at school? Like, and then getting back into the education after you've been monitoring and seeing what is going on.
I think it's again like so many things. Eventually, I can't. At some point, my kids will have to drive in a car without me there.
Yep.
But for a long time, they drive nowhere legally without me in the car. Like they
Yeah.
have a permit, and they've got to do that for a long time with me right there in the car. And then, even then, when they finally, even when they could legally drive alone without me, it's me as a parent having the wisdom to say, yeah, you're ready. Or it doesn't matter that you turned 16, you're
Yeah.
not ready. And then if there's and then I'm also kind of watching, and they're building trust, and then
Yeah.
I'm letting rope out, but then if there's I pull it back in if the trust is not there. The same way I think with AI, I think starting with a rule, I think that's practical. Starting with a rule of, hey, you can use AI for all kinds of things, but right now you need to always use it with me.
Yeah.
If you want to use AI, that's fine. Come and say, hey, Dad, I want to talk with Claude or Chad or whatever it is on something, and then watch how that interaction goes, and then let out the rope as trust is being built. I think one practical solution, while some of the monitoring services like a Covenant Eyes or some of these others that are kind of accountability software that are wise for families to use. I think just a practical space, while some of that accountability software is catching up to kind of the AI chats and monitoring that, is keeping devices in public places. And I think,
Hmm.
keeping them in the family room, not allowing devices that have AI access or internet access in a bedroom with the doors closed. Just keeping some of those devices as a rule in public places just adds a layer of just very practical accountability. But okay, educating, monitoring. Let's talk a little bit about discipleship. There is a real part of this that we have got to prepare our kids as as disciples, as godly young men and women, how to think about AI. And so, what would be just some things that come to mind, Tariq, about how do we disciple our kids when it comes to AI?
Yeah, well, first, I'll take a little bit of a step back first, because I think an important thing to mention is that to be able to disciple our kids, properly in this case, we ourselves have to be
Mm,
educated and be prepared and be on the forefront of it. So I'll just mention that. But, as with anything with children, again, they're picking up things, they're learning by example, they're running with it, and I think obviously there's not going to be any kind of replacement for good old fashioned parenting, biblical, spending time with your kids, teaching them the Bible, reminding them of good choices, good decisions, peer pressure. This is just like another thing on top of it all, right? Whether it be responsible use of computing devices or responsible use of AI, and what God, like, teaching your kids that, like, hey, when no one's looking, what are you doing? Because as you mentioned, like, yes, it's great to kind of have, these guidelines and rules, devices in public places, but really whether or not they're, honorable, trustworthy, following biblical principles when no one is looking, that's where the judge of their
hmm
character comes in. So I think it's just as important for us to say to them, hey, look, and we do this all the time. We let them know. We talk about the fact that, like, in the home, these things are this way. But sometimes when they leave the home, they're in someone else's home who we encourage them and trust them with, or they're in some other public setting.
hmm
This is where it becomes important that they have felt enough of these lessons and had enough of the conversations about what to do to actually
hmm
prepare them. So I do it in a number of ways with the girls, and along with Amanda. Like, we talk to them very openly about some of the issues, obviously age appropriate, to like where they're at in that journey. But it starts with very fundamental things and saying, like, hey, you know, we I know that there's going to be, things that kids are going through that they don't want to talk to their parents about. Where do they go to talk to,
hmm
someone about that? How does that work? Is that with their friends? Is there certain conversations they shouldn't have with their friends? But then the other avenue now becomes, hey, maybe I can ask AI this question. And I think parents have to, just to start that discipleship, have to be just very much on top of asking their kids, like, have you ever asked AI a question that you didn't want to ask me? Like, and or educating them with what kinds of questions should you come to me about before asking even their friends or asking a model. But I found that a big part of what has kept, I think, well, I have quite a bit of two different uh, kid approaches here because Soraya, I guess I'm putting this on blast here. Soraya is a rule follower. She loves rules. I know she likes to like know what is the right thing or not. Even when we were doing the AI project, she would say, you know, I didn't to people when she's presenting her project, I didn't just use AI. That would be plagiarism. You know, these were my ideas and so on and so forth, right? Um, Mackenzie is not quite the rule follower. She's the one that starts to do something first, whereas Sarah will ask for permission. Mackenzie starts going and she'll have it done. She's the one who's hacked into our Alexas before and changed the name of the keywords, and where we were trying to talk to the bot and didn't realize it was now called Ziggy. So this
I'm definitely not as smart as Mackenzie either. I'm realizing I'm less smart than everyone in the King household as well. We haven't even talked about Mindy. I mean, she's the smartest.
So you have to know, obviously you have to disciple them and disciple anyone. You have to know their character, know their personality, know where their weaknesses and strengths might be.
Yeah.
So it has to start there. And then as you see those opportunities, to shape them, to teach them, to pour into them what God says about X, right? Then you do that and you build on that. So that's kind of the approach that we've kind of had with any and everything, but I've been applying it to AI as well.
I think that's great. I love what you're saying about asking our kids good questions and assessing where they're at if we don't already know with AI. And what a great question of, hey, have you ever asked AI a question that you didn't want to ask us? And if they don't feel safe in answering that, they're not going to answer it. So hopefully they feel safe. Like, hey, it's okay. I just want to know where you're at. But I think that's really good to understand where they're currently at in their relationship and with AI, and they're understanding their usage of that. And I like the idea of differentiating what are the right questions, because this is an important one for them long term. What are the right questions and uses for AI, and what are not right? And I think like one clear dividing line from a discipleship in my mind is AI is a research assistant. It's not an advisor.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be advising me on what decision to make, but it can help give me information. It can set very well set a lot of the ingredients on the table. But in the end, it should never be my advisor. Why? Because it doesn't have discernment. It doesn't have wisdom. It doesn't have the Holy Spirit. It can't hear from God. It doesn't, like we said in the last episode, it doesn't have the human experience understood, let alone the spirituality understood. And so helping our kids know that clear line. And then even on the research assistant, there are some subjects that we want them to come to us for. It's too personal. It's too significant, or it's something that really needs to be saturated in a biblical worldview, and we don't want just the pull from everything in the world informing that. If it's not a data question, it's not an information question, like George Washington's birthday is it's a fact. That's not, it shouldn't be informed by bias one way or another. It's just a fact. But there are other things on body image, sexuality, relationships, marriage, so many other things we don't want the world being even the research assistant for. And so helping us understand some of those distinctives, I think, is important.
Yeah, it's again, I think like you have to just boil down what you're doing when you have these assistants, you have this AI in front of your kids. It is no different than saying, here's the entire internet, right? There's guardrails built into some of these things, but not on the levels that we would need them to even be. And so, again, I think it all ties together where, education, monitoring, and now discipleship. And kids are naturally curious, so they're gonna want to go and want to explore and want to understand what it is. So it's not even like, no, you're not allowed to do this. That's not gonna work either, because then the minute that there's an opportunity where someone isn't looking for them to use it, they'll be there, and now they're not equipped because we blocked that out. So I definitely agree on all those points.
Super helpful. We've got more to talk about in some of our other episodes, but just to kind of recap as we're bringing it to a close, our kids is the world they're going to grow up in, and so we've got to educate them, and it's the same with all the other ways we educate. Create conversations and moments, but also seize moments and create the dialogue. Create projects with them. We got to monitor. We've got to set up the right guardrails for where our kids are at, and we've got to disciple. We have to help them understand the right uses and not right uses of AI. So, a super helpful conversation, Tariq. Thank you, and hope this was a helpful podcast for you. I hope you join us for another episode on the subject of AI, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the City Rev Life podcast. Feel free to subscribe and leave a rate and review. We love it when you share it with your friends on social media, so don't forget to tag us at cityrev.church. If you're interested in more resources, download our City Rev Church app and follow us on social media. Have a great day.